Hello YouTube. I thought I would do another typical INFP behaviors, or what I think are examples of typical INFP behaviors, just because that seems to be my most popular video, and makes sense. People go on YouTube to figure out their type, and what easier way um, to do that than look at an example of a type you think you might be, and listen to them talk about what they think is key to their type. So I thought I would make another one. I have 3 more points to add to the 5 or 6 I made in the previous video. Um, yeah, I'll just dive right into it. So I guess the first one is, I'm not liking my bangs today. I guess the first one is, I talk to myself a lot. And I mean, I don't think that in itself is type specific at all, but it's what I talk to myself about that I think is probably very INFP relevant. I mean, I've talked to some people on forums about this, and they say the same thing, and that's um, it's funny. It's like if I'm sitting alone in my room on my bed, I don't really have conversations with myself. Like if I'm stationary. But if I'm out walking around, I just lost my dog last month, but when I would take her out for walks before that, when I would go for a walk, the action of walking would get me going, and I think this could be relevant to extroverted thinking, or fourth function. Maybe not, but I just think it's interesting. Yeah, it seems like when I'm walking, or let's say I'm working, and like I usually just work in retail, so let's say I'm just doing something that doesn't really require a lot of mental effort or awareness, dusting or something like that. I'll notice that I start to have these conversations with myself, and what the things that I talk about when I talk about myself is sometimes I imagine that I'm somebody I know, like I play their side of the conversation, and it's never a conversation I've actually had with these people, which might sound kind of sad, but it's like conversations I wish I could have with people. Um, yeah, so obviously INFPs being dominant introverted feelers, we're not very good about opening up to people, even people we're close about. It can be, yeah, it doesn't really come easy to us. So I think and when we do open up, we usually, at least I do, I always think back on what I said, and I think, I could have said that clearer. I should have said it like this, because in the moment I tend to fumble. But anyway, I think yeah. So I'll be walking, and I'll be having these conversations with myself, and they're just beautiful conversations, like something out of a book, like they're just incredibly eloquent, and just everything I say is well thought through, because I have the time to do so in my little fantasy, and yeah, I'll talk about I don't know, kind of like revelations I've had, maybe a higher perspective I've gained on something. I'll talk about that, or I'll realize something that has been bothering me. I'll figure out some like subtle emotion and the cause of it, and I'll talk about that. Or it could be like an intellectual revelation of kinds. Like it could be something that I understand, like an idea, a concept, maybe that I got out of a book or something, or learned at school. And I don't ever really talk about that kind of stuff with other people, even though that kind of stuff excites me. But I have a hard time bringing that kind of stuff up. Like if somebody else happens to bring it up, then I will likely pounce and I will respond. But I am just like totally incapable, it seems, of instigating the kind of conversations I want to have. I think a lot of INFPs are very passive in that way. We just kind of respond to the people around us. We're not really instigators. Um, so yeah, I think those are relevant to the INFP. The fact that we have conversations in our head, sometimes with people we know, sometimes even just with myself. I'm just explaining to myself. I've discovered this. Like, listen to me, let me lay it all out. you know, for me. Let me lay it out for me in a very pretty way, you know, because we like things, we like pretty things, and a lot of us like to read, and we have a fondness for clear and good structured writing or something, you know, so I think that's where that comes from. And the other part of that I think is that might be INFP relevant. I'd like to hear some feedback definitely on this point. Is I tend to have these conversations when I'm moving around. It's like if I'm just sitting in my room. I don't know. I don't really do that as much. Or maybe it's because when I'm sitting in my room, I'm usually on my computer. I don't know. Maybe that's why I don't. But maybe it's relevant to the extroverted thinking function. I'd like to get some feedback on that. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next point. The next point, I think I'm just going to do these 2 points. The next point is hypersensitivity to body language. I heard somebody mention, and okay, so this has always confused me, because I always thought that people who are good at picking up on body language were extroverted feelers, because, you know, that's a lot of the descriptions of the extroverted feeling function talk about how they can read the emotion externally very well on other people. You know, they just have learned those emotional external cues, and that's why they are so in tune with the emotions of others. Whereas, you know, introverted feelers, apparently, you know, they're very aware of their own feelings, but they don't have that external awareness of other people's feelings. And yeah, that's something that's often said. Fucking thanks. As to be a difference between introverted feeling and extroverted feeling. But that always confused me, because I focus on body language. Like, I often am distracted by body language. I'll tell my little anecdote once I finish my thought here. But yeah, I saw somebody mentioned in a video, I don't know which one it was, you know, I've watched somebody on YouTube, I wish I could give him credit for this, but he said that it was an extroverted intuition thing, you know, because you're scanning the exterior world, and unlike extrovert sensing, you're not just looking at everything as it is, but you're interpreting it. You're looking, you know, between the lines, and that totally makes sense. That totally makes sense to me, you know, because body language, you have to interpret it. It's not just like, that's a table, you know, you're interpreting that movement as meaning something. So I think that could be why INFPs, or at least I am very perceptive of body language. So extrovert intuition, I'd like some feedback on that. It's been in the past. I like really struggled with hypersensitivity and awareness of the body language of other people. Like, it would paralyze me. Like, I wouldn't be able paralyze me in terms of I wouldn't be able to talk to people, like respond and think when I'm talking to them, because I'm so distracted by their body language. Like, I'm like, these are times when I'm, when I was really anxious, you know, because it seems like whenever I'm going through like an anxious period, that's something that becomes super hypersensitive of, which makes sense, you know, because it's like the fight or flight, you know, you need to be really aware of, you know, your perceived threats or whatever. You need to be very keen on their body language, so that totally makes sense. But yeah, I remember when a couple years ago, when I decided to go back to university and finish my degree that I started there. When I first started going to lectures, I couldn't look at my professors. I couldn't look and listen. Like, I was like literally incapable of doing that, and I felt really awkward because I was constantly just like looking down, and it felt really rude to be like, but to appear to be ignoring the person at the front of the class. And where I go to university, the classes are pretty small. They can range from like 20 to 40 people. They're not huge. It's not huge auditoriums or, you know, huge classrooms. So, you know, the professor's looking to everybody, looking for feedback. Like, do you understand this? And I'd just be like sitting in the back, just like totally ignoring them, because once I started looking at them, all I could see was the body language. I just started analyzing their character, and I couldn't process what they were saying, and I wanted to learn, you know. So yeah, so that I think is a good example of you know, that NE overdrive, body language hypersensitivity that I've experienced in the past. I'm wondering if other INFPs have also experienced this. Could just be a me thing, you know, might not be type specific, but I have a feeling it is. So I thought I would put that out there. Yeah, I think I'm going to end the video here because it's at almost 11 minutes. So yeah, those are a couple more examples of typical INFP behavior. I'd like some feedback. If you're an INFP or you believe you're an INFP, let me know what you think about those. If you relate to them, don't at all relate to them, I'd like to hear that too. Okay, great. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.